What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. Tonight, I am joined by Mr. Arrowhead Tom. Tom, how are we doing tonight, sir?
Good. I'm here, ready to record a podcast. I'm not wearing pants. Wearing shorts.
Locked in.
Gotcha. Some of y'all need to check yourselves. Anyways, but yeah, no, it's a good night. It was a relaxing weekend because the Chiefs didn't have to do anything. Just sat home and watched teams we didn't like lose.
Yeah, which was pretty entertaining. Yeah, it was definitely, so far it's been an interesting wild card weekend here. Very stress-free one in the Chiefs Kingdom, as Tom alluded to. But yeah, it was certainly an interesting wild card weekend. While we're recording this Monday night, so we still got the Rams-Vikings game going on. But yeah, the entire wild card slate actually kind of not very many good games, if we're being completely real. Yeah, not many ended up being very close besides like the Bucks and Commanders game. Everything else, I think I even saw a stat that the point per game spread for the first round, this wild card round, was worse than the college football playoffs first round, which was interesting. I guess there's even less discrepancy there than it was in this first week of wild card games. So definitely interesting how a couple teams ended up showing up. We don't have a ton of Chiefs really related things to talk about on this episode. We're just getting out a little playoff recap, wild card recap, little episode out here. Just in the meantime, it's been a lot of time between Chiefs playing and meaningful games. So we're just gonna kind of hang out for a little bit tonight and recap some of the wild card games. Look forward to a little bit of a look forward to the Chiefs' opponent in the divisional round, which is the Houston Texans, which we'll get into. And yeah, Tom.
Not too much because again, we got to save some for later.
Yeah, we got to save some for later. Yeah, exactly. But we can talk about everything else. Tom, initial impressions from wild card weekend.
Yeah, we complained all year about the Chiefs games and being stressful and the product that they put out. Man, sometimes we got to step back and remember we're pretty dang lucky to have this as our football team. There's much worse teams and much worse products out there on the field. Well, I didn't watch. I don't think I watched a full length of any game. I caught bits and pieces of several of the games. You do see the difference in the Chiefs level of play. There's some other teams that are playing at a really high level too. I'm not trying to say the Chiefs are the only one and they're the only ones who can win it or whatever. We're not doing that. But this team has been there and it's been a championship level team, and we've talked about the championship DNA, and I think we started to see that a little bit this year towards the end, but it looks a lot more apparent when you go watch, even like right now, the Vikings, and watch Sam Darnold do something that resembles playing football against a good team. So, I really think that was my biggest takeaway was, man, it's a good time to be a Chiefs fan. It's good to be a Chiefs fan, which has not always been the case. And no kidding. Yeah, it really makes you appreciate kind of what we have for it right now. Because there were many times where we were just like these a couple of these wild card teams were going one and done in the playoffs and whatnot, and just not even making the playoffs. Really, that was even the worst part. Suffering a lot of brutal playoff losses, like some of these teams this weekend kind of suffered. I mean, some of them weren't even brutal. It's just kind of sad, Some of these games got outright embarrassing for some of the teams. We'll start it off with how the weekend started off, I think, which would be the Texans and Chargers game, which me and Kyle had predicted was probably going to be a Texans victory. The Chargers, I think, were heavily favored going on the road, which was very interesting to both me and Kyle, and I think a lot of people who might have saw that line and taken those bets, because the Chargers, I mean, they were a decent team so far this year, but Houston, proven playoff team, at home, it was definitely a tall task for the Chargers to be getting points in that one. So old Justin Herbert had
quite the day out there of a performance. Was it four interceptions? I think he had on the day.
14 to 32.
Yeah, 4 interceptions, 1 touchdown. That's, I mean, that's just how you lose. It's hard to win when your quarterback's throwing 4 interceptions in a game.
Yeah. Well, and to his credit, the Chargers. I'm sorry, I'm pulling up his stats. The Chargers did not give them a lot of weapons to work with.
No,
offensively.
Yeah.
Lab caught 9 passes for 197 yards and 1 touchdown, which is good for 197 of Justin Herbert's 242 yards.
Yeah.
He was targeted 14 times. Here's how many receptions everybody else had. 2, 1, 1, 1.
Yeah. That's 4 other guys caught balls, period.
Yep. Quentin Johnson was targeted 5 times and caught none of them.
No pass. That's
TJ Chark was targeted 4 times and caught 1. Will Dissly 2 for 5. So they did that man no favors at all. The Texans defense. I know we played them a couple weeks ago, and obviously, I think what most people remember about the game was the Tank Dell injury, but. And that kind of deflated that team for a little bit. I mean, rightfully so. But they look to have bounced back and have refocused. Their defense is pretty dang good. Derek Stingley Jr. was a highly touted prospect, and for a reason. He had 2 interceptions in that game. Shout out former Chief legend Eric Murray. What was he, a 4th round pick out of Georgia?
Yeah.
Something like that. Had a pick 6. Nope, he went to Minnesota. I lied to you.
Close enough.
But yeah, the other thing is they were all over him. Let's see, looks like they had 3 sacks on the day. A lot of pressure. So that's
4 sacks.
4 sacks. Oh yeah, I'm bad at counting. I'm bad at math. So 4 sacks on the day. I mean, they were all over him. It's kind of funny because we, again, talking championship DNA, difference between that player and this player. We've seen one game like this from Patrick Mahomes in his career, and it happened to be in the Super Bowl against a team that had a really good pass rush set, obviously. And had a Hall of Famer on the other side, and also Patrick Mahomes' offensive line consisted of a handful of, gummy bears and some duct tape.
Yeah.
And here, Justin Herbert runs in this wall, and John Harbaugh, credit to him for being a team guy. Jim is the one.
Jim. Yeah. I was going
talking about. Yeah, how great Justin Herbert is, and this and that. And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's not the same. It's not the same brand of football when the chips are all on the table. So that was the big part of my takeaway was he really, there really wasn't the same response. I don't see Patrick Mahomes having a game like in that situation.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned how we had played this Texans team just a couple of weeks ago, and I don't even think they had a sack in the game versus us. Really, we really got the best of them in that game, but it was kind of more of a testament to that was one of the first couple of games where the Chiefs offense really started to figure it out again, started to get their mojo back. I think that might have been one of the first Joe Thuney left tackle games as well. Yeah, so that was kind of more so the Chiefs really stepping up to the task, and then. That Tank Dell injury really kind of derailed their game, I think, for real. But yeah, really impressive showing from the Texans. Joe Mixon went out there, had a really good performance, over 100 yards. Nico Collins, 122 yards on the day for him. And yeah, Texans have a really good passing attack, a really good offensive attack in general when they have, their pieces in place. Obviously, they've lost a couple guys this year, but they still have some really good core weapons that if you aren't playing up to par and you give them more opportunities than normal, then it's going to be tough to have to keep up with them. And at a certain point, they were just up too much on the Chargers. Chargers had to keep on passing, and Herbert just kept on making mistakes. So it was certainly an interesting way to start the wild card weekend off. See the Chargers kind of just doing what the Chargers always do. Doesn't matter. It's gonna be interesting to see if they can ever get out of that rut. Honestly, we joke about it a lot, but there's a lot of different coaching changes that they've made and different quarterbacks throughout the years, and it's just never seems to work out in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, they never ran. I mean, they couldn't run the ball well. And again, we've seen games where the run game in Kansas City gets shut down, and sometimes we're wanting them to run more despite that. And yet, again, Justin couldn't kind of pull together. And I mean, it's obviously not on him. You can't have a guy go 0 for 5 on targets, especially your former first-round wide receiver that everybody definitely thought was going to be bad and didn't want the Chiefs to draft. It's fine.
Me. I didn't want him.
That's fair. You were right on that one. And you've been right on Worthy so far. Maybe
I've been right on 2 wide receivers pretty hard, so I feel pretty accomplished on that. It's just 2
wide receivers. I'll take the offensive tackles. Apparently, that's
well, Tom. I maybe a guard now. Maybe the guard now.
I don't want to. We have time today, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I saw today about the conversation around the Chiefs and offensive tackles, and they use.
Oh, I did see you say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I retweeted it. Who was the gentleman they used as the example? Goodness gracious!
Spencer Brown. Yeah.
Northern Iowa. Listen, I love Spencer Brown coming out as a prospect. I thought
you were a big fan of him. I remember.
A big guy, yeah, had lots of potential, but it's very revisionist to go back and say, "Oh yeah, look at that," because if you turn the clock back 12 months ago, they were talking about trying to find replacements for him.
His first 2 years, he was definitely a liability.
Injury prone and inconsistent.
Yeah.
Turns out sometimes guys need time to develop, and if you're going to come for guys like Wanya Morris, first of all, if you're going to start any conversation about Kingsley, you can stop because the guy's not even got a full season under his belt yet. Right. But if you're going to come for Wanya, I'll say a couple things. One, also a 3rd-round draft pick. The injury he has been working through this season has not been insignificant. And I will maintain that he's been playing out of position and should be at right tackle. And I think him playing left tackle was out of necessity more than it was out of desire for that to be the actual, situation. But I think it's a little those conversations again, impatience.
Yeah, a little preemptive for sure.
If we want to talk about the Chiefs' inability to develop players at a position, we could probably talk wide receivers. But Rasheed Rice and
Xavier Worthy,
Xavier Worthy have looked pretty good lately. So maybe it's just the small guys, the short guys.
Yeah. Or the tackle position. The tackle position is going to be interesting to kind of observe throughout the next couple of years for the Chiefs. And it's definitely kind of we're definitely jumping the gun on some of these. Like Wanya, he was, like you said, 3rd-round draft pick. He was drafted to essentially be a swing tackle, and then because of Donovan Smith's injuries last year, he came in for a couple games at left tackle, and then just because of how it was all laid out this year, he ended up playing a lot of left tackle. But I think you're not alone in your thought that he's more of a right tackle. When he played right tackle a couple of games that Jawan was out, he looked tremendously better and way more comfortable, which is, who would have thought, a guy who played right tackle is more comfortable at right tackle. And it's just interesting because, tackle is one of those positions, offensive lineman really in general, it's has much more of a shelf life than a lot of positions, you see offensive linemen going into 15, 16 years, Jason Peters, he's still probably playing. He's still probably going to play for another 5 years or something for some crazy reason. It's
like 96 years old.
Yeah. So it's very to jump the gun and call them busts already or whatnot, or write them off. It's very preemptive. They've got a lot of time left in their careers if they so desire, and they keep on putting in the work. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Chiefs do this offseason in tackle. Also interesting to see what they do in the playoffs for their tackle. I know you weren't here for that conversation last week, Tom. Any any quick thoughts on the Chiefs left tackle situation right now? What do you think they're going to do on it?
I think you go with the if it's not broke, don't fix it approach. Let Tooney ride it out. I think that there's some good reasons to that. Then you have DJ as your backup if necessary. I think that also means, and this was a thought that I had that I haven't shared in the pod. So let's say Tooney plays left tackle for the rest of the year. He's got a pretty big cap hit coming up. Maybe you use that as a conversation to move around some money. Obviously, we want to reward him for that, right? But you restructure that deal, free up some cap space in the short term, push his stuff down the road a little bit, or move some things to a signing bonus. I think you could have a little bit of that. You can use that as a way to justify that conversation and maybe, play with your books a little bit. So, to say, hey, like he's already I think he's probably, if not, one of the top 8 guards. Like with the top, when they signed him, they talked about, well, they just gave him left tackle money and that kind of thing. Well, turns out he's playing a little bit of left tackle, and he's playing a pretty high level of left tackle. I don't think that they want that to be necessarily long term his plan, but like you said, offensive linemen have long shelf lives, and would it be the wildest thing for him to switch positions? Maybe not. I'm sure he'd be pretty mad because he would have made a lot over the course of his career at left tackle than he did at guard. But I think they could use that as a way. But again, down the road, if they decide to put DJ in, I have a lot of confidence that hey, that's going to be the right move for whatever reason. But I think we talked earlier when we were having all those offensive line problems about the struggles with like the communication and the continuity and the importance of that, and shuffling things around before the playoffs. And again, they could be, right now they could be working on it hard behind the scenes and be ready. But I think it makes sense to leave it and let it ride for a lot of reasons. But
yeah, I was on that same train of thought. Just, if, like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The offensive chemistry looked just night and day different when Tooney moved out to tackle. If that's a coincidence or not, who knows? But they were rolling pretty well with that starting 5, and they were really productive on offense. So, I'm sure. Like, let's be real. Joe Tooney isn't a tackle, and he is a guard. He should play guard, and he is an upgrade at the guard position. And you kind of look at it is DJ that big of a fall off at tackle compared to Tooney? Is he an upgraded tackle compared to Tooney? Because, Kyle made the argument if he was here, he'd be very adamant that, putting Tooney at left guard, you're getting a very big upgrade at that position for maybe not as much of a fall off by putting DJ in at left tackle. I don't know, where you might rate both of them kind of at this current stage, if DJ is better or worse than Joe is. We don't have a lot of film to go off of, which is kind of the tough part. I mean, he played one full game versus Broncos in week 18. Outside of that, there's still a lot of unknown of how he would look at left tackle, especially when you have Joe Tooney at left guard next to you instead of having Kingsley Suamataia at left guard for the game. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. They've had 2 weeks to work on it now with whatever their plan is. I'm sure they've already established it before the bye so they can get that really installed. But I don't know.
I would maybe say that's the wrong argument, because I think if like the other question, because I agree with that line of thinking that the drop off from Tooney to Caliendo is probably a bigger gap than from Humphreys to Tooney in terms of left guard, left tackle play. But I would argue the importance of left tackle play comparatively, and your ability to cover up or to adjust to that downgrade at left guard versus that downgrade at left tackle. And I think it's a little bit easier to swallow, the downgrade at left guard than it is at left tackle, just from an offensive perspective. From a scheme perspective, having a more consistent player there at left tackle, I think, is more important than having a consistent player at left guard.
Yeah, I would agree with that thinking. And it's also kind of what you want your identity to be more. Having a more stable left tackle kind of helps the passing game more, whereas having an upgrade at left guard might help the run game a little more. It's just kind of the balance of what you want to do. I've thought that Mike Caliendo stepped in and played really well at left guard, which is why I would have a lot of confidence going forward with him at left guard. And then, just the consistency from Tooney. He might not have the ceiling that Humphreys can give you right now. And some of these, obviously you have a really good pass rushing duo coming at you with the Texans, and then moving on after that, there's still a lot of good edge rushers left. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, and Joe Tooney has also cut his teeth against some really good edge rushers.
Yes,
in this time. So I think that's worth mentioning as well, is to say, hey, this is not, there's should be a level of comfort and confidence here in Joe Tooney's ability to do the job.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But a lot of confidence in the coaching staff and Andy Reid to figure out the best starting five rolling forward and get those guys ready to go versus the Texans on Saturday. But okay, so that was that. Let's get back to wild card. We went a little tangent, just mostly because there's kind of some relevancy with the Chiefs' future opponent, which we'll get into next episode. But second wild card game of the day on that Saturday was Steelers at Ravens, two teams that the Chiefs have beat this past year. Steelers a lot more recently, and the Steelers looked obviously a lot pretty close to what they looked like versus the Chiefs on Christmas Day. Just not great. Shout out to the Ravens, obviously, for being just the model of consistency as far as good teams. I mean, they're always going to win a playoff game or two. It seems like that the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, who's probably going to win the MVP again this year, like they're a very good team. And Steelers division matchup, it always can be a close game, but this one didn't really seem that close.
No, I mean, shout out to Lamar. He had a great game. It was a lot of fun to watch. Just the highlights from that were entertaining. I think the Steelers, they kind of tend to do this. They fade down the stretch pretty hard.
Yeah.
I think, some of that is they have an older roster and it just feels like they get banged up, throughout the year, and they just don't have the young horses to run. Mike Tomlin is a phenomenal coach. Wide receivers and catch or in check, better than anybody. Hall of Fame resume based on handling Antonio Brown for so long.
Yeah.
Alone. But man, it wasn't a huge shock to see them kind of show up uninspired, I guess I would say.
Some of those plays.
Yeah, I know there's some clips on Twitter going around of like the number 6, the linebacker, and
Patrick Queen.
Yeah, Patrick Queen against his former team. Man, that's pretty rough.
I did see apparently he was playing with a pretty severe flu and was getting IVs during the game. I saw afterwards.
That's a tough one. But,
tough situation. But it wasn't just him that was showing a lack of effort. There was one clip of a little rollout by Lamar. He throws it off to the wide receiver or something, and he gets like 5 extra yards because the Steelers are just like not tackling him, basically just showing absolutely no effort on tackle. It's definitely didn't seem like a very inspired team, especially with all like the locker room controversy they had going on and the defense and all that stuff. And then I think you nailed it perfectly, where it's like they really just run out of steam at the end of the season, it seems like. And, Russ wasn't necessarily playing as good of football as he was playing at the beginning of the year, and just a lot of chemistry issues and having to go up against a team like the Ravens in Baltimore. I mean, it's definitely a tall task for any team, but especially a team like the Steelers that just it kind of seems to be the thing. They make it to the playoffs and then can't get it done. If they ever got more consistent or high level quarterback play, I think they'd have a good chance of competing again in the AFC. But
Russell Wilson is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I don't know what you're talking about. Did you not see all the money that Denver gave him?
That's true. I mean, they paid him so much money to not play for him. It was pretty impressive of them. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Steelers do this offseason at quarterback. Now they have, both Russ and Justin Fields are free agents. So, Yeah, it'll be a long off season for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Ravens moving on as predicted, and
Yeah. The Ravens are a good team.
They're a good team. They are.
The Ravens, and I'm sure we'll talk about here in just a second the Buffalo game, but like they both looked good. This is like it's kind of a little boring. It's like we know these are the teams that are good in the AFC.
Exactly, and that means
the big three, sense. Not another team in there that we worry about consistently during the playoff game, despite what some of those weirdos from Ohio might try to tell you. It's the Bengals, Ravens, and Chiefs. The Bills, Chiefs, and Ravens. Wow, giving them too much credit. Spreads away. That's what I get. But I'm not worried. Someone's going to clip that, and they're going to give me
Bengals, Ravens, and Chiefs.
I don't think that big of a following with the fans of the Bengals
fans. Yeah,
they're all too young and mourning the loss of TikTok right now. But I just think like it's those are the big three, and those are the three that we're kind of expect to see kind of how it plays out.
Exactly. Yeah, you always expect those ones to make a run in the playoffs here, and obviously the next game, which was the first game of Sunday, Broncos at Bills. Bills winning 31-7, just another pretty lopsided game. The Broncos started out kind of hot. They had one touchdown early and got up 7-0, and then the Bills said, "All right, let me just do this real quick." Go 31 unanswered. Really just kind of dominated the rest of the game. Broncos kind of had a lot of drops. I mean, Bo Nix was kind of playing his ass off, but it just wasn't really cooperating with the rest of the team. And it was just a very one-sided victory as was the Ravens game, really. Yeah.
No, I mean, listen, the Broncos, I think, overachieved, and they got a pretty tough draw with the Bills that first round. So, I mean, that's kind of that's the nature of the wild card. Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson are the two MVP candidates this year. I will say the Bills looked like a very complete team, which was good. I thought good for them. I thought they played very balanced. Sometimes they get out of whack. If you're a Broncos fan, I don't think you can be mad. But also it kind of went as expected, not very competitive. And the Bills look like the Bills. And that's one of the downfalls about having the bye week and that type of thing is you don't always have that same momentum and that same confidence. This team, I'm not too worried about it because of their experience overall in the playoffs, but it feels good to go in and get that first one, just out of the way. Yeah, and when you drop 31-7 on a team, that feels good. So
that is good momentum, especially when the Chiefs' last game was a 38-0 win. I mean, obviously it was versus backups, but the momentum from the Bills. I mean, they rolled into the postseason hot and went home. I mean, Broncos going into Buffalo, it's a tall task once again, but join us now is a man who's here to share his thoughts on the wild card weekend and everything else fun and football related. Mr. Kyle Henning. Kyle, how we doing, sir?
Oh, sorry, gentlemen. Migraines are an awful thing I don't wish on anyone, even my worstest enemies. And migraines into waking up into a nosebleed is even less fun than just having the normal migraine. So it's been a nice 10 hours or so. I've had more enjoyable times, but other than that, it was a weekend of football. I won't say it was a good weekend of football. I won't say it was an entertaining weekend of football. I expected. So we talked on Friday. Garrett and I did. Tom was preoccupado, which is fine. I expected Denver to give a little more of a fight than that because of their defense.
Yeah.
But their defense was on the field the whole game, so it's hard to do that when it's you versus both sides of the ball for the other team. Of course, now that everything's over, Bo Nix had Mike Tyson. I broke my back. What do you mean? It's spinal. That's exactly what jumped to my mind when I saw that report a few minutes ago upon waking up from the migraine was,
Wait, he had it. I
okay.
didn't even see that.
Back
Yeah, you're ahead
fractures.
of. Oh,
You
He has
broke
I
back
broke my
fractures.
back. So Knicks.
Like I said, it screams very much the Mike Tyson in the ring after the fight going up. I broke my back. Like, okay,
Fine. Yeah, that was a good
maybe
one.
you did. If you had actual back fractures, like if your back was fully broken, I doubt you're taking hits from an NFL defense and walking around to talk about it. So whatever they were, maybe they were fractures, but congratulations on your Warrior status now. In hockey, it's one thing because their injury report is upper body injury, lower body injury. You could watch a guy get his arm cut off on the ice, and they would have him listed as an upper body injury. But in the NFL, where they report everything, that's something. And also, has anybody had the injury report? Was he on it at any given point in time for back fractures? Because with gambling and stuff, that seems
feels like that
problematic.
should have been some included. Yeah, don't know how that just goes under the rug. That's very interesting.
So we'll see where that goes, I guess. But they did underachieve in the last game. They overachieved along on the whole season. I agree with Tom. I was listening a little bit before they brought me in. I was obviously in the back room just kind of hanging out for a minute. But they played well up until – they played well in several games. I had some questions because several of their wins were against non-playoff teams, and then the Chiefs backups. So there was that. Buffalo handled business pretty much as I expected from an offensive perspective. They were actually a little better than I thought, but again, it was partially because that Denver defense was on the field the whole game. So that scenario wasn't too surprising. The Steelers, I mean, we knew they were fading. I didn't know they were going full that meme where the dude chunks the deuces and then disappears into oblivion.
Yeah.
But like, that was bad.
Yeah, me and Tom mentioned how they seem to do this a lot, where they just really run out of steam at the end of the season.
There's no gas, and it's partially because
gas.
Tomlin is winning games with duct tape and rubber bands across lots of his roster.
Not a great, a lot of injuries.
But also, well, not even that. Like, go look at the talent on that roster and tell me how deep it goes. It's not very deep. You got studs on defense in three positions with TJ Watt. Alex Highsmith is really good. Patrick Queen is probably overpaid, but that's what happens when linebackers get big second contracts, but he's still solid. And then Joey Porter. I mean, Deshaun Elliott was a major player for that defense, and we've seen Deshaun Elliott when he was a Raven
Yeah, so Patrick used to be good, not really anymore.
Minka's beat up, and I think he's been playing beat up all year. He's also been beat up for like 3 years now with injuries because, again, he guts it out and he plays through things, and then they just compound. So, like, some of it is that. Some of it is you still don't have a legitimate quarterback. Sorry, Russ.
Yeah.
But it's just is what it is.
He looks very different than the beginning season Russ.
You mean week 6 is different than the playoffs, Garrett? Crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
Especially because they have George Pickens and who?
Muth.
Other than Pat Freiermuth, who's the tight end,
just fun to say Muth.
who they ignore for large stretches of most games, which blows my mind. They don't have any other weapons anywhere. I mean, Calvin Austin was a main contributor for that offense. Calvin Austin, that one, the one that all of you went, he's in the league? Yes, he is in Pittsburgh as like wide receiver 2. Okay, so let's see what else. Oh, the Buccaneers folded like origami. Good job.
We haven't got to Bucks yet. The Bucks yet. We're going in order.
Spoilers.
We did go Chargers and Texans though.
Hey, what did I say about the Chargers? What did I say about
Chargers? You're always
the
going to
Chargers?
Yep.
The names and the faces change. The chargering remains the same. I want to put that on a T-shirt. I think that's going to be one of our first T-shirts that we do.
Death taxes and the Chargers charging.
Everybody told me it was going to be different with Harbaugh. No, guys. No,
I don't know if
no.
it'll ever be different.
There are some organizations that you just simply cannot fix. The Jets, the Bears, the Chargers, like the Jacksonville Jaguars. The
Maybe if they
Carolina
go back to
Panthers.
San Diego, they might get some mojo
Maybe
back.
you'll fix the juju
Yeah.
bad juju you created
It's
by
not like they had a lot of
forcing your
great
way into
juju
Los
in
Angeles.
San Diego either. I mean, I don't know.
At least they were
won
better.
a couple playoff games in San Diego.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've won a single one since they've been in LA, but
And Justin Herbert threw more interceptions in that game than he threw in the whole season.
yeah, that's tough. That's
Like
tough. He also,
that is
I mean,
the
he
most
also has
Chargers thing I've ever heard in my life.
I mean, to his
Yeah.
credit, he also has even less of a supporting cast than the Steelers do. I mean, he got Lad McConkey and
That's
no one
because
else.
they gave
But
them all away.
that is true. Yeah, let him go.
Mike
and then
Williams, I think,
drafted
is actually
Quentin Johnston,
in
which
Pittsburgh.
he is. Yeah, they traded for him.
He is, yeah. The
And
corpse
Keenan
of
Allen is
Mike
in
He was in-
Chicago. And I
Yep.
know they were older, more expensive players, but Jesus, you don't give him somebody to throw the ball to. Quentin Jefferson has hands of concrete, and he has
Yep.
forever.
I tried telling you. I tried telling everybody. Yeah.
It is Ladd and the offensive line and J.K. Dobbins, half of J.K. Dobbins because he's hurt, and that was it.
Sometimes. Yeah. Yeah.
And Houston
J.K.
also.
Dobbins' heart drink.
Drink. Yeah.
Well, Houston's a bad matchup for them. Even though Houston's offense tried to give the Chargers the game in the first half. They tried. They tried really hard. And then CJ Stroud caught a fumbled snap, scrambled, and hit a 45-yard bomb, and I was like, and it's over.
Yeah, that was it.
Like, as
Kyle,
soon
pop
as that
quiz
happened.
for you. Who caught the second most amount of? You don't even tell me who. How many was the Chargers' second leading receiver? How many catches did they catch on
In the game?
Yeah.
Leading receiver?
Second.
leading pass catcher?
Okay,
Second
because I
leading
was
pass
like,
catcher.
I know it's not the tight ends. I
Ladd
know
was
it's-
number one. He went
I think
9
it was-
for 197.
Yeah, was it 2?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Two
thought it was-
distance, 2 catches.
It was-
And
yeah,
the
and
other
he
guys-
dropped 2.
The other guys had one.
Yeah.
Will Dissly dropped a key third down in the first half,
Yeah.
and then I think tip drilled one into a pick, not
Yeah,
including the
Justin
one
Herbert-
Quentin Johnson tip drilled one into a pick.
Yeah.
Quentin Johnson threw 100, Ladd McConkey had 197 of Quentin
Yards
of
of Justin Herbert.
He's nailing the
200.
names.
I've got Quentin Johnson on the brain. I feel guilty for liking him as a prospect. I am sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
That's what you
If
get.
you
That's
triggered
what you
that my position,
We Garrett and I did try to tell you about that one.
we walked
Yeah.
it back. I was just toying with the idea. It was late in the draft season. I was out of guys to watch.
No.
Listen, it's kind of like when you're at the bar and it's late at night and everybody else is left. And there's only a couple people left there, and you know it's not good, but
And
you
it's
keep
real
need
dark,
something.
and you've had lots of
draft
drinks.
You need
Yeah, and
something.
you're like, I know when I got here, this guy didn't look like he could catch touchdown passes, but I've had a couple drinks, and maybe I can take this one home.
Maybe.
That's where
Yeah.
I was at. I
Ugh.
apologize.
That's-
Chargers
Okay, now that
suck.
yeah, you're right. You're right, Tom. We accept your apology. Now that Kyle's caught back up, let's get to the last 3 games. Packers at Eagles. Kind of was a closer game than some of the other ones for a little bit there.
That's
And then-
a legitimately close game if Keyshawn Nixon doesn't get speared in the face and they don't call it.
Yeah.
He got the ball back, and somehow
Yeah,
they
he did get
didn't
the ball back,
overturn
yeah.
it.
That was very wild.
What are
very
we
obvious.
watching?
Very obvious helmet to helmet, and then he very obviously recovered that thing. I mean, there's an overhead shot of him
Speared
having
in
it.
the face.
Yeah, that was certainly something.
And then
that game, that
Every
game was
receiver
pretty
they
close
had
for a
got
while.
hurt.
Yeah, the
All of them.
Packers once again just suffering from injuries.
They
I mean,
had
that
a
was
lot
kind
of
of Packers
receivers.
season. Yeah,
Well, remember, they started this game without Christian Watson, who tore his ACL in the last game, I believe.
Mhm.
Then Jaden Reed got hurt. Then
I think Romeo Dobbs had a concussion.
Romeo Dobbs got
Yeah.
knocked out. And Dontavian Wicks was the only starting wide receiver, I believe, that they had on the field. I think by the time the game was over, they only had 3 functional wide
I
receivers.
believe so. Yeah, I believe
And
that was
2 of them
that.
hadn't played snaps most of the year. They also had their center get hurt And their guard, who was their backup center, was already hurt earlier in the game. So they were playing roulette
Yeah, they
on
had
who was going to snap the ball in between timeouts after
and
Josh Myers
I
got
believe
hurt. I
they
was like,
shuffled
what is
like
happening?
3 different left guards because their left guard I think got hurt, and then they brought in a different left guard, and he got like 2 penalties or something like back to back. Yeah,
It was like 4 penalties. It was worse than what happened to Kingsley at the in that Bengals game.
Yeah, and then they brought in like I think a backup tackle technically to play guard again. So it's it was a rough day for the Packers.
As much as I wanted to be like, oh, the Packers didn't show up in that game, no, they just all got broken and they got screwed to start the game. Like,
I would say that was the other part. The refs did nobody. I mean, we'll just get out of the way now. The officiating for lots of teams this weekend sucked.
Yeah.
Horrible,
as always.
You could make an argument that the big NFL wanted the Eagles to win, they wanted the Bills, all that stuff. There was lots of calls. It's almost as if this happens every week, and it's not just something that affects the Chiefs game.
Officiating just sucks.
Maybe that's it, or maybe we're just part of the conspiracy at this point. I don't know.
Did you say the Bills in the words officiating?
We didn't really mention the Bills much when we talked about the officiating.
We need to talk about that for a second.
A little pep talk from the refs real quick on the sideline.
Real quick, he went over to the sideline to console him, tell him it was his fault, and then pat him on the helmet. And then Josh, if that ref said that to him, that was that much of the conversation. Don't lie to us. Who the what?
It's pretty lengthy conversation.
We can see you, dog. We can see you.
Yeah, always a camera on him. I mean, there's always going to be a camera on the quarterback.
That is not the only thing that was said in that interaction. Even if it was said at all, was don't yell. Listen, Flopzilla, you sir are the person who gets everything people claim Mahomes gets. Okay, let's be real, because if that clip takes place with Patrick, which we've seen before, the internet loses its mind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because it was Joshy Poo, everything is sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah. No. If that happened with Mahomes, we're looking at change.org petitions next morning.
Yeah.
Actually, before the game is even over.
Probably protests outside the NFL offices.
Yeah. Protests and human sacrifices.
The words, I would have had to mute the words rigged on the internet forever.
Yeah. So the Eagles Packers also had their fair share of bad refereeing, but just tough for the Eagles. Tough for the Packers. Yeah, they missed a field goal too, which was
from like 38 yards.
Yeah, a pretty common thing for them this season. Was rough. Just tough to go on the road to Philadelphia and play the Eagles. He doesn't normally Eagles are a very complete team today. They're a very complete team this year. It seems like with Saquon Barkley there, and you got AJ Brown and all those wide receiver weapons. And
we'll see. I don't know how effective the passing game is going to be as the later it gets into the season, and I think teams are going to load up to take care of Saquon and dare Jalen Hurts to beat them.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts' first game back from like 2 or 3 games he missed from concussion, so he looked a little rusty still.
Some of that was because they didn't have any much to play for after he got the concussion. Like they were pretty locked into their seating and whatnot, and so this isn't a new thing with Jalen. He's been a little questionable with the throwing of the football at points, especially in big games. AJ Brown had one catch,
and
a nice interaction of reflection of improving his inner self or inner excellence.
Just reading a book on the sidelines.
That author is probably doing a tap dance because he's sold like 25,000 copies of that book.
Became an overnight bestseller. Yeah. Shout him.
But at least he actually when he tweeted about it, he actually had like stuff highlighted and stuff. He wasn't quote unquote LeBroning the book where he's on page 2 of every book he's ever started reading.
Always got a different book, always on the first page. Yep.
So I don't know. I think the Eagles are probably one of the 2 teams I would expect to come out of the NFC. I think it's them or the Lions. Dark horse being the Rams.
Yeah.
Because I was about halfway late to this podcast, just like the Vikings are halfway. Oh nope, still haven't shown up yet. I at least
Still
made
have
it
not.
to the
Still
show.
time. Still time.
They
But they're
still have not showed up yet
yet.
to their playoff
Yeah.
game on Monday night. So
Yeah, so Packers Eagles not it was a close affair for a while. The Packers had a lot of chances to get within reach of the game and then just really
they
couldn't.
fought. I'll give Jordan
Yeah.
Love credit, and especially actually I'll give more credit to Josh Jacobs because Josh Jacobs was
Josh
mauling
Jacobs
dudes.
Yeah. He was fighting his ass off. Jordan Love, he played an okay game. Definitely was trying to be a hero a little bit, I think, in some of those instances, which is tough.
He's
when you don't
throwing
have,
balls to cab drivers
you
by
ain't
the
got
end of
no
that
wide
game.
receivers out there, so that's always tough. Yeah, but
I don't even know what a Chris Brooks is. So the guy who went to bowling.
I heard that name. So full disclosure, I was working all weekend, like basically 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. both days. I was watching / listening to games on the phone. When they said Chris Brooks, I had to stop what I was doing, pull out my phone, and was like, that's an NFL player? What position? Oh, what? From where?
From where?
Who is that?
Yeah. Don't
Still
know.
don't know.
Don't know.
I still don't know.
Yeah.
I have no
Packers,
clue.
Packers, I think they still got a bright future ahead of them, but not this year. Eagles are definitely just a little bit better of a team. So yeah. And then the final game of that Sunday night, definitely the best game of the weekend. Definitely the best game so far, a wild card round. Commanders taking down the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay, which was pretty impressive of them.
Yes.
Quite the game, honestly. A lot of mistakes from both sides. Bucks made a lot of mistakes. Commanders made their own fair share of mistakes that they really tried to kind of keep it close. And ultimately, though, Jaden Daniels, when you need it most, seems like he's always seems like he's guy. Seems like Jaden Daniels is guy.
All right, go ahead, Tom.
We'll see. We'll kind of see. That was an interesting game. I don't trust quarterbacks in a Washington jersey, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a fun game. It was entertaining, at least.
Yeah.
They're going to need to get a better running game. Again, similar to the Broncos. Like, here you are, rookie, and I know they had a really good season and that type of thing. But
first year head coach for Dan Allen or not?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Dan Quinn. Jesus.
Dan Quinn. Yeah.
Dan Cook is coaching the Washington Commanders? Hold on. Dan Cook is alive?
He threw me off with Dennis Allen, and then for whatever reason, I had Cook on the brain, and it was definitely not. It's Quinn.
Somebody should make sure Dan Cook's not out here stealing plays like he was stealing jokes. But anyways, there's some stand-up comedian beef for you.
Yeah.
I said this before. I'm not super compelled by the NFC because I'm just like, we'll see who we play. We'll see who we play when we get there.
That's fair. I don't know that it matters necessarily. I just genuinely don't think the NFC has the horses in the barn that the AFC does.
If they learn how to draft quarterbacks, then.
And they haven't for a
what
couple
they're
years.
Behind on. Yeah.
I will say this. The Buccaneers, for as brilliant as Liam Cohen has been largely, there were a couple of play calls in that game, especially that handoff there at that point in time that ended up in the fumble. Like, why? For what? Bucky Irving is running through them up the middle, and Baker is dicing. Marshawn Lattimore was getting cooked by Mike Evans.
Yeah, they targeted him a couple of times too. That was a good time. Yeah, always fun. Me and Kyle knew it. It was going to be a fun matchup, and it was.
Leave it in Bucky's hands. Don't be trying to get some of the super offensive smart guys. Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Mike, what's his face in Miami?
McDaniels,
Kyle Shanahan.
Yep.
Now you can add Liam Cohen to the list. The Vikings scored.
Kevin O'Connell, kind of that smart offensive guy.
They outthink themselves sometimes. They get cute, and then stupid stuff happens because they get too cute. that handoff on the end around to Jalen McMillan at your own 12-yard line or whatever it was, it goes in that bucket of too cute.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like, as bad. The other problem I have is with Todd Bowles in that game. Your defense hadn't stopped a nosebleed in the second half, and you decided to kick the field goal and tie the game in plus territory on fairly short yardage on a 4th down.
Yeah.
And you couldn't stop anybody at all the whole game. And what happened? You got 4-minute drilled.
Changes.
They walked down the field, and they kicked a field goal. And Jaden has been great all year at that stuff. Whether it was the fluky thing against the Bears because it's the Bears, whether it's several other drives to just march down the field and win a game, he's been great at it.
Yeah.
We'll see if it continues. I agree with Tom. I have serious questions about their running game. Brian Robinson is not the answer.
And 33-year-old or Austin Eckler also not the answer.
Yeah, 78-year-old Austin Eckler at this point because his knees make him double the age that he actually is.
Exactly. If they had more of a running game, they would definitely have more of a chance.
I just have some questions. They also, I think their 2 best linemen are Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti.
They are.
Those names sound familiar. It's because they are familiar.
Yeah. Andrew Wiley had a great clip of him running
by.
And
he's taunting the corner on the ground.
Points at him as he's running by for a touchdown. Andrew Wiley's the best.
So I think they probably need to upgrade their offensive line a little bit because they're going to get pressured a lot. And I'm curious to see what it looks like against Detroit next week with that team because, well, they may get lucky and they may only have to play Philly. And I say that sarcastically as physically possible because that's not going to be fun for them either.
Good luck.
Yeah, it might be the end of the road for the Commanders, but hey, they had a good run.
And he's played well. I would like to pause and slow everybody down from he's Patrick Mahomes of the NFC because I've seen that take a lot the last day and a half.
I can see like Lamar Jackson of the NFC maybe because he's kind of a running threat.
Man, I've from people I really respect and have a high opinion of their opinion, I have seen some things when it comes to that young man and who it is. That game to me was more about the Buccaneers doing things that Todd Bowles seems to always do in large games unless he has Tom Brady, and that wasn't even his quarterback at the time.
They definitely mismanaged a lot of things in that game, which I think was kind of the downfall of the Bucs, and that's probably have to make some changes this offseason.
And I still thought they were going to win that game.
And still had a pretty close chance of it.
And then as soon as the ball left that kicker's foot, I was like, oh, it's hitting the upright, but where's it going? It's hitting the upright. I knew it was hitting the upright.
We got to talk about old buddy and the OCD of that he has. That was brutal watching all those clips beforehand.
He has OCD.
For me, my friend.
His wife posted about like people needing to leave him alone about his OCD tick before his field goals. Yeah. You also don't mess with kickers. You don't.
No, that's valid, and I
leave him alone.
Can relate to that. Like I can imagine being in that spot where he's like, oh, my sock just does not feel right. The helmet doesn't feel perfectly right on your head. Like I can 100% get that. I related to him a lot in that instant.
Yeah, well, like again, as long as his ritual wasn't stabbing a cheerleader on the sideline, we can live with it. No problem. You make a kick and don't stab someone, we're good.
Exactly. Yeah. It was a pretty crazy game. Who knows? I don't think the Commanders make it much far if they're going against Detroit.
Kickers have done far worse. Like entire classes of citizens should give up their professional aspirations, and we've let them
really,
do their
Tom,
thing.
Any other specific examples you can think of, or just seem to be very passionate about this
topic? Just vaguely thinking that was
just a generality there. There was no
I'm not going to name names.
I got to give Dan Quinn a shout out. That dude was part of the 28-3 disaster in Atlanta.
Yeah.
He then goes to Dallas and puts together a great defense in Dallas for a couple of seasons. First year in Washington, that franchise has been one of the you can't fix it franchises. Now that was largely because their owner was a giant pile of crap.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what seems to happen when these teams get different ownership, because it seems like it always comes down to the ownership that kind of screws
it's
some of these
weird
teams.
that it starts at the top.
Always kinda starts
Crazy
at
how
the
that
top.
works.
Yeah,
It's almost like in every company, the top how the top handles things kind of trickles down and is equivalent throughout the rest of the organization. And
Yeah.
bad leadership and bad management can cause big problems. But they've completely changed the feeling and the vibes around that organization. So I got to give that whole organization credit, but Dan Quinn going in year one, rookie quarterback, and being the coach that everybody thought Sean Payton was, is really impressive.
Yeah. And a big shout out to Patrick Mahomes, old coach. Whose name I can't remember.
Talking about Kingsbury?
Cliff Kingsbury?
Yes.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was stuck on. I said I was going to go Kirk Herbstreit. That makes no sense. Listen, guys, it's been a long week, and then we're sitting here at Monday night. So, give you an idea of where my brain's at. Everybody remembers famous Texas Tech head coach Kirk Herbstreit, who developed Patrick Mahomes. Oh goodness. Anyways,
but and Cliff has been good too.
Yeah,
I'm surprised that I will be surprised. Although he's an interesting case in this whole coaching carousel, because I expected to hear his name for head coaching jobs, but he also doesn't have to take one right now, because if anybody's doesn't remember, he's getting paid by the Cardinals for like the next couple of years to not be a head coach.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to take a dumpster fire just to take a dumpster fire as a head coach. He can sit out and hang out and wait, and if he so chooses, not go coach the Jaguars or the Bears.
Yeah, he can. He might go. Bears might not be a bad idea. Pair him with Caleb.
Well, I think the Bears are going to probably end up with Mr. McCarthy, if I was just guessing based on what happened in Dallas today. After they wanted to interview him and Dallas blocked him and made him wait a week, like that whole thing.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did do that.
By the way, Dallas also missed out on the opportunity to interview any of the coaches that are still coaching that are looking for jobs, that are going to be candidates for jobs, because they decided to goof around in that window.
It don't matter. They already got their next head coach now.
What, Deion?
It's going to be Deion. It's going to be Deion. If we manifest it, it'll be funny.
You missed it.
All right.
The whole conspiracy about Deion's going to Dallas. We're going to trade Dak Prescott probably to Cleveland. I don't know. They click probably. Don't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like to pay him.
Hey. He's not the other guy they traded for, at least. Although, where are they going to put Dak on the books, because they still have that other guy's contract?
Just put him on the books. They're going to trade Dak.
They can offload Myles Garrett or whatever. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And they said they'll dump Dak. They'll trade up for Shedeur Sanders, and we're going to be entertained by the Cowboys for the next half decade.
Yeah, think of how entertaining. Think about how entertaining the offseason would be if that happened, and then all from them just go like 5-12 still. Like the
offseason, it's going to be every week. Jerry's radio show, Jerry's little locker or hallway interviews after every game, Deion on the podium, Deion's radio show that Deion will inevitably get in Dallas, Shedeur's podcast that I'm sure he'll do with Micah Parsons once he gets. That would be like
maybe Deion and Jerry have a show together.
That would be a full season of Hard Knocks without ever having to have Hard Knocks' cameras in the building. Ever.
Listen, this is our only hope of getting all that media attention off of the Chiefs and Taylor Swift. This is really the only thing that's going to move the needle.
This would move the needle.
We should all be hoping for it.
That would be the biggest three-ring circus you've seen since Barnum and Bailey's was touring the country regularly for like 40 years.
I'm here for it. I'm here for the chaos.
Yeah, you talk about teams that are hampered by their ownership. That's Cowboys are probably going to be that forever. They're going to keep making silly decisions until.
I would also love to see Deion treat players the way he does college kids and in the NFL and see what happens. Exactly. Somebody would try to fight that man in the locker room.
Be traded.
It'd be interesting though, because then we'd see kind of both sides. We'd see Deion in the NFL and how that'd work, and then we're going to see Bill Belichick in college. We'll see how that kind of,
I'm glad you brought up Bill.
Kind of interesting.
Do you guys remember us talking about the fact that Andy doesn't show everything in the regular season and they don't always pull all the goodies and the toys and the tricks out of the bag, and us getting yelled at by every fan base and half of our own fan base telling us that we're incorrect and we're lying and that's not a thing and so on and so forth, and even talking media heads trying to say that that's not a thing. Did anybody see what Bill said on Pat McAfee's show today?
I did see
Because
that.
I did.
I did.
And I'll tell you what, it sure
interview.
sounded like he said there's playoff plays. And that guy has 6 rings.
6. Maybe 7th with the Giants or the Browns or something.
I don't
Not
know.
the Browns.
Definitely
Not
not
the
the
Browns. No, but he was with the 4 Giants, I think. Maybe.
He was with Parcells. He might have got one. I don't remember.
I think in '95 when they won with Phil
But
Simms.
as a head coach, he has 6 rings.
Yeah.
And if that man is telling you that coaches have playoff play, well, the good coaches have playoff plays, can we understand that maybe the part where I've been trying to tell some of you folks, I won't use the other words that all jump to mind at once.
You must
That's a thing.
You naysayers.
They do not show everything. They have stuff that they've shown 75 times that they're going to run a variation, a different piece off of. They're going to show an alignment that the defense or the offense or defense of the other team expects to have a certain thing happen, and then something totally different is coming. And you're going to go, what was that? That's a playoff play. That's a play they've been setting up for all season. They've been getting teams to look at these tendencies and see this thing, and then in the playoffs, they're going to throw you something totally different, and you're not going to know what to do with it. That's going to happen. They do it every year.
It was a very interesting conversation that Bill shared about all that. Now he and Josh McDaniels would go in and, come playoff times, you're really focusing on installing plays that are game-changing plays, either, kind of trick play, touchdown stuff, or just plays that can get you a big chunk yardage or something like that. Like, definitely just going in and adding new stuff and maybe unlocking some stuff, sweeping off the old binder of trick plays and bringing them out when it counts. Yeah.
If you get 3 weeks, which they did because they didn't game plan at all for Denver in Week 18, we talked about that already.
Have we talked about that? Maybe Matt Nagy was the play caller Week 18.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
I'm just kidding.
And defense too, like what?
Yeah, no kidding.
Maybe.
They could have crowdsourced. They could have handed a controller to a stadium.
Done some fan control.
The plays be imagined. It probably would have been as in depth as their own game.
Correct.
Yeah, I should have brought Josh Gordon back and put some fan controlled football. That would have been
good. I was gonna say, with some fan control, it would have been equally as effective.
Let T.O. and them run it for the weekend. Isn't he part of the fan controlled football league?
Yeah. What's Mike Vick doing?
Actually, he's coaching at
Norfolk State, I believe.
Norfolk State. He got a head coaching job. Which shout out Mike Vick. Good job. Good for you. He's not the only.
I mentioned it pre-show. Ed Reed got an offensive coordinator job in a high school.
Yes, I saw that. And there was another former player who got a college coaching job too. I cannot remember, in a similar school setting as Mike Vick did.
A division rival or something.
In the same I think conference as Mike Vick. But anyway,
Tom Jackson? No,
I can't remember.
Sean might have already been a head coach, but I think he is coaching.
Maybe it was D-Jack. So anyway, you get 3 weeks. You scout yourself for one, so that you look at some of the plays where you're like, oh, and sometimes you build tendencies that you don't realize you built. So when you self-scout, you identify, hey, we do this a lot, and it's not something we intended, but when we're in this, it seems to be a theme. How do we make a variant off of that? How do we make an adjustment off of that?
A great example.
Wasp,
but also corn dog, right? The defender talked about that when, and this happened twice in the game, where that motion from outside to inside right? So defenses pre-snap key on certain motions and formations.
They
and
have
all that
rules.
stuff. Yeah, and so you're looking to, when you're watching film, you kind of make mental notes of, okay, look, they're doing this motion, they're in this formation, that means they're running this play, right? And so then when you've run that play, and this is something that, like, again, Andy will do this week 3, week 4, week 5. He'll put certain plays, certain formations, and certain motions in, and he'll run those plays one way, and then come playoff time, it's the exact same setup, same look, same motion. Oh, what's that? He's breaking outside instead of inside, and now a defender who spent the last 2 weeks or week mentally going, okay, motion inside. I know he's going inside. I can go that way. Mentally has to go, oh no. And we talk about that all the time. When you make a football player stop and think versus just play, then you've won. And that's one of the advantages the offense has over defense. But yeah, Andy Reid is masterful at sprinkling in different looks throughout the year and then adjusting them in playoff time to leave people going, wait, what happened? And Steve Spagnuolo is no slouch at it either. We saw that last year, really, his masterclass of a play calling, down the stretch, rotating safeties, and dropping guys in the coverage and moving things. And
I was even going to mention it, like on that.
That we didn't see all year, yeah.
And interesting, like on that same train of thought on the defensive side, it's a big thing that I know the Chiefs use in the Super Bowl, especially versus the 49ers, where the 49ers, use a lot of pre-snap motion and things like that. And the Chiefs were using those things to key off on it and time their blitzes and stuff. Like they kind of figured out, like if the Niners are, put someone in motion, they're going to snap the ball at a certain time after that so they can kind of key their blitzes and show late stuff and just, there's a lot of ways that you can kind of make the offense or the defense kind of do things in your favor by using different motions and all that different kind of stuff.
And Spags is going to do it in very much different ways. You're going to see him show a blitz that they've run like 30 times through the season, and they're going to blitz from a totally different angle on that same look. And there's going to be a quarterback standing there going, "What the was that? What just happened?"
Yeah.
But Garrett, what's the main common denominator between the Super Bowl and this first divisional now playoff game for the Chiefs?
Well, you're going against an offense that definitely does a lot of that kind of stuff. A very high profile offense that has a lot of different motions and things like that.
For sure. The other thing is time.
There's a lot of time.
You basically get a bye week before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You're getting a bye week, in this case 2 bye weeks, before this first divisional round game.
And we know how Andy Reid does off of buys. Historically, Andy Reid off of a bye week, that's pretty good numbers.
They had the pads on Friday.
Yeah.
Travis talked about it. Also, Travis made it very clear. They're listening. They're always listening.
Oh, yeah.
They don't talk about it much publicly. They don't bring any attention to it. They don't do a lot with it. But Rex Ryan has been named now by 3 different teams.
Rex Ryan is having quite the couple weeks Rex Ryan's having, Might be
Texans were smoking the Rex Ryan bye week pack in the locker room.
Yeah, he doubled down. Shout out Rex. He doubled down. Rex is a character.
Rex is always gonna Rex. Especially when it comes to feet.
That'd be hilarious if he was the Jets head coach again. Just because.
Oh please!
That's just what dumpster fire organizations do.
Dion with Dallas, Rex with the Jets. Let's just get the band back together. Vrabel's a Patriot again.
Times, you really have to step back as a Chiefs fan and appreciate what you have, because you'd be looking at another bout of Rex Ryan as your head coach.
We talked about this. As much as everybody wants to, several folks around this Kansas City team want to harp on the Hunt family and the ownership. Dog, look at what it could be.
It could be so much worse.
If you haven't got a chance, I just dropped today, I think. Dustin Colquitt had Clark on podcast.
That's crazy.
Which he does over at KCSN. Shout out them and Dustin. But it was a 35 or 36 minute interview with Clark Hunt, which he doesn't do that
it's not very
for
common.
one.
Yeah, it's crazy that he did with this. Shout out to
But
him.
he talked about the Andy stuff, some of which we've already heard and known. But
Mhm.
he talked about changing the structure of the organization from a more traditional NFL model where the coach answers to the GM and the GM answers to the owner. And he changed it to where the president of business ops, Mark Donovan,
Mhm.
the general manager, Brett Veach, and the coach, Andy Reid, all answer directly to Clark. Nobody
Mhm.
answers to one another. There's no power struggles.
Good
There's
collaborative team
no,
effort. Yeah.
and they all work together as a unit. Now, the GM and the coach have to be on the same page, which he reiterated, which I thought was hilarious considering how we got Brett Veach as our general manager. Because,
Mhm.
fun fact, kids, the GM before him and the head coach currently were not on the same page.
We're on the same page.
Funny how that works.
Mhm.
So to have that and to have an owner identify, hey, this isn't working, we need to change up how we do this, and to identify what it is that they do and then follow through with it, and also trust those individuals to do their jobs and not be, I was on Madden the other night and I saw his Madden rating sucked, so we can't trade for him. Or my son said there was a tweet that said this, so we can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
it could be.
Let's
That's
hire
really
Urban
happening.
Meyer as a head coach.
Yeah, that's really happening around the league. These things are
could
really
be-
happening.
It starts at the top, and it starts with Clark,
Yeah.
and they do an insanely good job. You may not love the facilities, and you may think parking is too expensive or whatever it is this month that we're mad about.
It is.
And it is. You're not wrong. But it's also the part of being a winning organization. They also talked about how Clark had decided several years prior that they were not a small market team, no matter what everybody seemed to keep playing off that Kansas City is a small market. And they don't operate like a small market team.
Yeah.
They're
No.
not the Royals. And this isn't a shot at the Royals because they are a small market team. They don't have the budget.
Well, baseball,
The Chiefs
baseball
do.
for you.
And they operate accordingly because you can see small market teams and cheap owners, Cincinnati.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look
Las
at it.
Vegas.
Yeah, the Raiders.
They're too busy paying all the coaches.
The Chargers.
They got too many coaches to pay. Yeah, another coach Raiders got to pay now. Yeah,
The
just
Chargers. They're gonna have another GM to pay too because they owe like 5 of them also.
That is wild.
I think Mike Mayock's still cashing a check from the Raiders at the moment.
Maybe John Gruden might still be getting.
Well, I think there was a lawsuit over that one. They probably still fighting that out in court somewhere.
Yeah.
But legitimately, be thankful for the ownership, for the structure of this organization, for the people you have in place, for this run that we're on, that we don't get to. No, this is not a common thing. Okay, this is not just how this works.
Yeah.
If you've been a fan since before Andy Reid, you know all of that. You've seen what it looks like when things are not that way in Kansas City.
If you can pick Tyler Thigpen's mugshot out of the collection out of a lineup, you know what it's been. You know how it's been.
You know how bad it
We
can
are
be.
in solidarity.
So, I mean, just enjoy it. And now we know our opponent. Now we know what's coming. And it's a team they saw 3 weeks ago. Well, 3 regular season weeks ago. It's been 5
3
weeks
business
now.
weeks ago, as you can maybe say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I just find it hilarious, the narrative that has sprung up all of a sudden now that we're playing the Texans, that all of a sudden the Chiefs have forgotten how to play the Texans, like we didn't just see them a few weeks ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll get into it on our next episode of full Texans preview. But yeah, that kind of sums up Wild Card Weekend. I mean, we can quickly touch on the fact that the Rams are going to beat the Vikings here. I think that's pretty that's pretty set in stone at this point. I think that they're up 27-9. I think the Rams are going to beat the Vikings. So
Sorry, Mama Williams. I
Yeah.
did try to tell you that it was
yeah, I
coming.
mean she was done with it after the first drive where the and scored, and the next Vikings first drive they got sacked I think twice, and yeah, next year Vikings.
He got sacked 6 times in the first quarter, in the first half.
Yeah, so maybe next year Vikings.
2
maybe
turnovers, 6 sacks.
it's not.
Sam
It wasn't their
Darnold's a
year.
pumpkin. I don't know how they just turned the ball over now or gave the ball back to the Rams now, but they did.
Yeah, wasn't their year, but Rams will keep on. Rams have an outside chance of maybe upsetting the Eagles potentially, but it's probably going to be Detroit and Philly in that NFC Championship game, and it'll be interesting to see who
keep
represents
an eye on
the
this
AFC.
Rams team.
Yeah,
They're one of 3 teams that I think have a shot to come out of the NFC. Detroit, Philly, and them. And that's what I said before this whole thing kicked off.
Mhm.
And now we're gonna watch them play. It's gonna be something.
It's going to be something. Yeah.
Look, man, in the NFL in the playoffs, it largely comes down to 2 things when most other things are equal: quarterback, coach.
And luckily for Chiefs fans, we have the best at both of those positions.
So it's
with
looking
that-
like Detroit plays the Commanders, and that's probably where that fairy tale ends for the Commanders.
Yeah. So that about wraps up Wild Card Weekend from us. We got a lot to look forward to. There's a divisional round coming up versus the Texans. We'll be back with another episode before then, giving a full preview of that and any other Chiefs news. Oh, also, of course, one more thing. We almost made it out here without talking about. Congratulations to Patrick and Brittany Mahomes on the birth of their 3rd child, Golden Raye Mahomes. Sticking with the medal name, which is kind of cool.
All
Golden
the
Raye.
precious medals.
Yeah, Golden Raye. Interesting name. Not bad. Not bad. You can call her Goldie, I guess. Something like that. Kind of cool.
We'll see. They may go. She may go by her middle name too. Some.
Yeah, that's kind of Sterling's a good metal name. Bronze is, his name's really Patrick, but it's Bronze, and then Golden Raye, not bad. I don't know if they're gonna enter the Hall of Fame of baby names, but that's all right. That's all right.
It's at least a
Hey,
solid.
man,
I respect consistency.
I do.
I do, and also some of the names that are now
There's some
running
pretty bad
around
ones
in
these
schools,
days. Yeah,
and
exactly.
because I got most of my family are school teachers or in the school system or whatever. As far as
My mom was as well. Yeah.
my mom, my mother-in-law, several of the others. Like I've grown up around schools, and some of these names, buddy, I gotta tell you.
Hitting a bunch of letters on the keyboard, basically.
There was a TikTok video yesterday I was watching of a teacher like reading some of the names that he's got and like trying to pronounce them, and there was literally one that was spelled after a venereal disease, and instead of using the correct pronunciation, it was a alteration on it to make it not that. It was Genaria. And you can figure out what venereal disease it was spelled exactly like by me saying it in that fashion.
Mhm.
There are some names out there, guys, and those are not nearly as problematic as some of that is. So they're also, at least they're not named after directions or major companies.
Yeah, or just that is true. Or just a bunch of random letters and numbers.
I was gonna say, or like that where he's named after a mathematical formula.
Spider 2Y banana, something like that as a name.
Spider
Yeah.
2Y banana.
Yeah, so probably good name, Golden Raye. We'll see if this is their last kid or not. 3, and I don't know if they want to have more than 3. If they have a 4th one though, I bet they're hoping for a boy because there's probably more metal boy names that you can figure out than.
I think you could have run Sterling either way, male or female. Shout out to our guy Sterling in Kansas City, Sterling Holmes.
Yeah, Sterling's a good name. Yeah, I mean Sterling Marlin, the old NASCAR driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I forgot you're a NASCAR fan. That's a
Yeah.
pull. That's a deep cut pull for Garrett.
Yeah, number 40 Coors Light car.
Were you still alive when he was racing?
There was a little bit. He was still racing. He was still racing in the early 2000s. Yeah, the number 40 Coors Latte car. Come on, that thing was dope. That was like one of the best paint schemes of all time. Yeah.
Yeah, that car was elite. painless.
not as elite as Carl Edwards' Affleck car, but that's neither here nor there. So, yeah, I think that covers everything in Chiefs Kingdom and Wild Card Weekend. We'll be back later this week with another episode.
We'll announce the winner of the giveaway on Friday on the live show.
Yes, yeah,
We did not get to our 250, so unfortunately the Kelsey bonus print does not go out this time, but we'll see about maybe running another giveaway here soon.
Yeah, potentially in the future. So be on the lookout for that. Be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, X, and Instagrams. I always used to say Twitter, but I think I'm gonna
It's
have
still
to.
Twitter.
Yeah, but I think I'm gonna have to start. I mean, there's I think it's looking like it's X for the long haul. So find us at X at Kingdom Says Pod or Twitter. Yeah, I think you can still go to twitter.com and it redirects. So yeah, follow us at YouTube at Kingdom Says Pod on there, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts from.
Go sub on YouTube so when we go live you get notified. Turn your notifications on for it.
Exactly. We're probably gonna be live on later this week, either Thursday or Friday for that game and that Texans preview and a whole lot of other fun stuff. So we appreciate you for rocking with us. Hope everybody enjoyed their couple weeks of stress-free Chiefs football, because the stress is all coming back this Saturday at yeah, so it'll be a
and
fun
if you're
one.
going, bundle up because it's supposed to be cold.
Not as cold as last year's wild card game, but still gonna be chilly.
Have your face fall off your body if the wind touches it cold.
Yeah, exactly. I saw someone say it's gonna be like a trip to the Bahamas compared to last year. And I don't know if I can relate to that, but I'm sure someone can. So that's it. That's all we've got. Thank you for watching Chiefs Kingdom and rocking with us, and we will see you guys on the next episode of the Kingdom Says.